Gil Van Bokkelen, shares of Athersys have doubled in the past 3 months to around $3.70 a share. Can you make this momentum last?
I think we can. We're actually coming up on some really important inflection points. We've got data coming from a couple of key studies. First, our partnered program with Pfizer in inflammatory bowel disease. We're going to have data from that trial in late April or early May. And then a few months behind that, sometime later in the second half of the year, we're going to have data from our stroke clinical trial. So I think people see we've got a lot of exciting things going on, and I think that that's sustainable.
What about MultiStem? Because it seems like it all comes back to MultiStem.
Yeah, so MultiStem actually is an off-the-drug stem cell medicine that we are developing right now. We've actually got 5 clinical programs around MultiStem. As I mentioned, one of them is partnered with Pfizer, and then there are a few other programs that we're doing on our own or through other types of collaborations with leading clinical and research institutions. So we've really focused on inflammatory bowel disease or inflammatory and immune conditions. We've focused on cardiovascular disease, on neurological conditions. And what we've been able to do over the past decade is really build out a broad portfolio of high-quality programs. Now we have several programs that are in mid-stage clinical development. We've got one program that is being developed for the prevention of graft versus host disease in cancer patients, which we can move into a late-stage clinical trial. And so we've really got a lot of good stuff going on, and I think that's why people are excited.
And you have 2 patents in Japan, which also helped the stock. I think that was in January. Is Japan ahead of the U.S. when it comes to stem cells?
Well, Japan announced something just a few months ago that was pretty revolutionary in terms of its impact. They announced that regenerative medicine, in their view, has the greatest potential to address the biggest areas of unmet medical need in their healthcare system. And so to take advantage of the potential of regenerative medicine, they announced a new regulatory system which can dramatically shorten the regulatory and approval process. So what they've done is they've created an environment or a system where you can run one well-designed clinical trial and potentially get approval based on that. They call it conditional approval because you'll have to then run some confirmatory studies. But essentially what it does is that it means that you could get a product approved in a dramatically shorter period of time for an indication like stroke, for example, get the product into the hands of doctors and onto the market so you can actually become a profitable company. And that actually has pretty profound impact. And for us in particular, we view it as terribly exciting.
It also helped you raise some funding. You raised about $40 million in January and November in the past few months. How far will that get you?
Well, that actually gets us out a fair amount over the next couple of years where we can hit some important clinical milestones and some other valuable inflection points. And actually, a lot of the activity by the investors that called us, these were many of our current shareholders that called us and said, hey, we think you're really undervalued. We'd like to put more capital in the company. And so that's essentially how those financings happen.
Awfully nice of them, right?
Yeah, well, it was. But I think it was driven by their recognition and the excitement of the fact that the company is really on the cusp of some amazing things happening.
Well, the stock's hot. We're going to keep watching it. Thanks for coming on.
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching The Street.